You're listening to episode 177 of the Christian Travelers Network. Today's topic is military friendships with Kent Dickerson. You're listening to Christian Travelers Network, the podcast and platform where travel stories, community, and scripture combine. Hi, Christian Travelers. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we have a special guest, Kent, who has been living and traveling internationally for many years, and he is going to be sharing some of the joys and struggles of creating friendship and community, and getting to share the gospel in those communities as well. But before we dive into that, I want to once again point you to our website, christiantravelers.net. There you'll find other faith and travel resources. And in literally the next week or two, we should be launching our online platform where you can connect with other Christian travelers, share your God-sized travel moments, and build and plan itineraries together. But without further ado, Kent Dickerson has lived for 19 years in Europe and Asia with the U.S. military community. He has parachurch ministry called Spiritual Battle Plan, is named after the many tools God has given him to find real victory over lust and other sin. His ministry includes writing and seminars. His first book is Remade: A Preacher Finds Victory Over Porn and Complaint. Hi, Kent. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am great, Sarah. Good to be with you today.
I'm glad that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've been traveling so much in the last 19 years?
Okay, yes. I started out a preacher, um, and but even in college, I struggled with pornography, and um, I only lasted 5 years in full time ministry um, back then, and I got in the jewelry business and became a watchmaker, watch repairman. Um, in jewelry stores. And uh, God eventually, well, first I've had to have a big fail, which a lot of times is what brings you to victory, or at least gets the road started. And yeah, I had an affair, divorce, remarriage. Um, anyway, that um, you would think that would really do it, but it was when I found myself back in the pornography uh, in the second marriage, very briefly. Uh, that time when I threw the Playboys away, I just really got desperate. I wanted more than anything to rid myself of this, and God put me on a path to real victory over lust itself, and it was through um, getting a much greater focus on Him and on His nature, and even even after um, finding a lot of victory over the porn through help with my brothers and speaking about it to guys, being open about it. Um, I still struggled with lust in the gym, and uh, I was praying a lot about it, and as long as I was praying about me and my weakness, not much happening. Uh, but then uh, God gave me an experience where I was really impressed with His holiness and His beauty. I mean, His nature, and that was far more effective um, in fighting the sin. So I got excited about that. Began to put seminar together, and yeah, so had uh, really a wonderful experience getting closer to God, just relationally, and that's really what I needed most. And so I had such a long struggle with pornography, like 30 years, and um, I would I'd do it again just because of the result, you know, that just being close to God is
Mm,
it's worth it, having gone through the long struggle and the
mm,
pain of it, just to be close to Him.
mm. Absolutely. It's definitely something that a lot of people do struggle with. And yet I think as a culture, we kind of tend to sweep it under the rug. Um, what advice might you have for someone who's kind of walking through that, wanting to get out of those lustful thoughts?
Okay, so the first thing is, yeah, you got to get real. You have to have at least one person that you are telling what's really happening with you. Um, that's very big, because until you shed light on your darkness, it has a hold on you that you cannot break through. And then also, like I said, you really find seeking to be real with God. Have prayers. Just look at the Psalms. You've got a lot of raw emotion. Uh, you know, maybe some motives that are not that great, and God processes them through the Psalm. And so that's another great key, is just start kind of build on relationship with God, and um, see the importance of knowing God as opposed to knowing the Bible or knowing the church. I mean, those are a necessary part of knowing God, but you've got to really focus on God Himself and desire Him.
Mm, yes. Um, as you've deepened your faith with the Lord, God's kind of called you to speak on this topic, and start kind of a ministry around it. What has that looked like for you?
Okay, so it began. We were in Germany, and um, I had gone to an advanced course in Switzerland, and then came back, and almost immediately I got asked to help a Tres Dias weekend. I had been on a walk to Emmaus, which is a similar 3-day weekend, and so they asked me to speak this time. And one unique things about these 3-day weekends is that um, your speakers are asked to give some personal testimony, and it's up to you what it is. But I knew what God wanted me to talk about, and so I got up and I laid it out to the guys, and there were about 45 there that morning, and just talked about the damage that lust had done in my life. And I was speaking that morning on Bible study, and I um, indeed wanted to um, impress upon them that you have to get addressing your sin. And I had no idea that the response would be almost every man either got up publicly or came to me privately and said they had the same struggle. And I had
Mm,
no idea it was that prevalent, because in those days nobody talked about it.
mm,
This was uh, almost 20 years ago, and so yeah, nobody talked about that at all. And so uh, just that where there was liberty in that, because you're not alone, and you know that you have a common struggle, at least with many men, and
mm,
that we're in this together. And so, yeah, I began speaking about it at men's retreats, at Protestant Men of the Chapel, which is the main Bible studies that are on military bases, typically, and the churches, just wherever I could, and just getting the word out that real victory is available to you,
mm,
and that, and not just lust, but all sin, that we need to all address those things which drag us down, as Hebrews 12 says. Fix our eyes on Jesus, and we'll find we can throw those off.
mm. Yes, and bringing it back to one of your previous points, you said that community is such an important part of overcoming this, having that accountability. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Oh yes, community is very important. I find that it's really best for me to have a couple of different type of groups going on. First you need just kind of a little bit larger group, maybe a Bible study group, uh, where you've got um, a real connection to, and you have times where you can confess to each other, help bring up subjects, study together, and share experiences. And that's important. But you also need um, a really close group, and we see Jesus modeled this. He had the 12, but then he had Peter, James, and John, and uh, they were they were had experiences that the rest didn't have with Jesus, and we see his need of them in the Garden of Gethsemane, and that's very telling. You know that if Jesus, as the Son of God, needed his brothers in a close way, how much more would we need it? So
Mm.
yeah, I really love having one, two, three guys that I'm meeting with every week, having a spiritual review of the week, and we go over, well, how's it gone this week? How's my Bible study been? How's my times of worship? And it's both good and bad. Not just an accountability group where you're looking at the problems that you have, but you're looking at the good things and encouraging each other in those as well.
Mm.
And yeah, that's really a wonderful thing. Uh, yeah, have some guys or some gals that you're really getting close to and sharing with,
Mm.
and yeah, it makes a big difference.
So you've been blessed to travel a lot, and I imagine that the community around you has changed over the years. How do you intentionally seek out that community, or I don't know, sometimes it's even embarrassing to admit that we struggle with sin, even though we know
Hmm.
those around us do too. How do you even engage in that conversation in the first step?
Okay, so one unique thing about the military community is the majority of people you get close to, you only have a short time to do it.
Mm.
They're stationed where you are only a year, 2 years. You might find some people like me who are uh, part of the civilians that work for the military that can stay longer, at least some of the time. You've got teachers who are part of the education system that have no limit on how long they can keep their job if they're doing a good job. So you can find some people that are there longer, but the majority they're just there a short time, and so they're a year, 2 years. You've got a time to develop a relationship, but they're used to that, and so they realize, hey, if I'm going to be close to anybody, I have to jump in, and so yeah, they. Uh, I find that the military community you can get closer to quickly, and then one thing about it, though, of course, as they get close to time to leaving, they're used to kind of pulling back, withdrawing, um,
Mm.
and preparing for that change. So
Mm.
you have you have limits built in as well, uh, but you've got positives as well. So yeah, it's great having community. I think that's very very important. We're seeing with COVID and the church response of being online all the time, uh, having to do that has had really detrimental uh, effects on the church. A lot of people, even after the restrictions were over, they're just staying online. They're keeping everything kind of at arm's length with their
Mm.
relationships, and uh, yeah, and we see that in the effects in their lives.
Yeah. Um, I know many of us have witnessed that, but can you speak to some of the damages of just remaining online and not having that face-to-face connection?
Okay, well, first of all, you actually have, um, shall we say, principles that God has set up in the way our brain works. And our brain is actually designed for connecting to people and to have touch with each other. Um, and so when you have that totally restricted, then uh, you your brain is actually kind of limited how close you can be to people in some ways. I have continued to meet with men's groups during COVID, and it's just not the same. Guys just won't connect, as deeply. They kind of uh, just they don't have the built-in pull towards each other, even
Mm,
though they want it, but it's just not there without in person. So yes, there's been a lot of detrimental things happening with the church uh, from this effect, and of course we see um, membership in churches in the U.S. just really falling. Uh,
mm,
Fortunately, there's Africa and some other places where the church is still heavily engaged and right is doing really booming. uh,
mm.
so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Um, it is crazy just how much more guarded we are or hesitant. And I often think that it's really Satan just telling me, oh, that person doesn't want to talk to me, or like I would be
Mhm.
bothering them if I would have a conversation. Whereas likely they're having the same thoughts and would really just benefit from opening up and just sharing life together, even in the fleeting moments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're designed to. We sure are. And
Mhm.
so God knew what He's doing when He set up the church and uh, made it where we have real connection with people.
Yeah. Um, how have you maybe felt supported by churches, friends, and family? I know that traveling and being international can make you feel very connected for maybe some people in your home country, your own family.
Mhm.
How have you maintained some of those connections?
Okay, so I'm from Abilene, Texas, and though I lived my teen years in Colorado, and most of my life though I was in Abilene, and so my home church there is still very special to me. But you can't really keep a real close relationship when you're only seeing people every year or every other year. Um, so that part's a little bit hard, but uh, I've have close friends and family that go back, reconnect to, and find when I'm looking for seminars, I tend to gravitate to those places where I have somebody to go and stay with and get a little support. And so I have had churches connect to me because of those relationships that I already had, and was able to do seminars. Um, and one thing I find though that the travel is really important because I have never had a seminar that I just emailed somebody about it and they say, oh yeah, I want to do that. Never, that's never happened. I always have to go and uh, meet the leadership, church leadership in person, and bring it up, and then they will show some interest and sometimes excitement about it, and we can plan an event. So the military, in when we were in Germany, they didn't have this because it's not far enough. But
Mhm.
when you're as far as I am now in South Korea, um, you they have a program where you can take advantage of flying on military flights, at least some of them. And that's a challenge because you can't even know about them more than a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
Um, and usually it's more like 2 weeks or something. So you have to kind of go be ready to go on the fly sometimes when you're trying to get somewhere, and you may have to. I've had to travel from here to Alaska, and even though I was headed to Texas, and then make arrangements. I can still fly what they call Space A from Alaska to the mainland, and just find a flight headed somewhere that I can get to California or somewhere. I've been fortunate. Had one trip where I flew on a cargo plane uh, in a net which was attached to the wall of the plane. So that was a unique military experience. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, uh, and so I went that particular trip to Altus, Oklahoma, not which was only let's see, like a 4 hour drive to where I was wanting to be in Texas. So uh, that was that was great being able to catch that, and a unique experience. Not the most comfortable, but um, the second thing God addressed in me after lust was complaining, kind of constant
Mhm.
complaining in my head. And so I uh, had an experience with him with that was special, where I was on a Korean mat uh, giving a seminar to guys, and we were in a Korean retreat center. And a Korean mat is not a bed. This was a half inch thick, and that's it. And you're like sleeping on the hard floor pretty much. Um, and God had already addressed my complaint, so I just prayed, Lord, I do not want to complain, but this is hard. And, just admitted what I was feeling. This is hard. And God reminded me that He is the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. And
Mhm.
I had to look it up in the morning. I didn't remember where that was found, and it's in the first verses of Second Corinthians. And so I said, "Okay, God, you're the God of all comfort. Let me press into your comfort." And I actually slept, and it wasn't near as hard a night as I expected to be. And so that experience on that helped me in the plane. I said, "Okay, Lord, this is not the most comfortable, but I press into your comfort." And I found myself just really going a lot into praise, singing very softly, trying not to disturb people. But um, anyway, yeah, and just going through a lot of praise in my head, and just feeling delight in Him. And that made it a unique experience.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've had the opportunity to grow a lot in your relationship with God, but then also it seems that when you get to connect with people, it's kind of almost a spontaneous, spur of the moment flights and opportunities to get to go home and see family. For someone who is maybe wanting to be some more supportive of military families, what's some encouragement or advice that you have for them?
Well, um, so you get quite a bit of response in places in the U.S., but of course there's areas of the country where that's not true. Um, I, I being from Texas, most people you meet, they know somebody that's in the military. They have family or somebody, sons of friends or whatever that are in the military, and so there's a better response there than a lot of places where people don't know a single person in the military. Um, so I would encourage people to just consider that these people are making great sacrifices. To move regularly, to go to places that are very uncomfortable at times. They're deployed to Afghanistan, to uh, very hard places to go, and oftentimes it's for a year or more without their family, even if they're married. They can't take their family to those places, and that's a really huge sacrifice. And just to try to support them, and particularly if they know somebody who is deployed, write to them, stay connected, send emails, get on. It's one time you can use video, and just say, hey, we want to say how you're doing, and of course, people love to get care packages where they're sending homemade uh, cookies or whatever to them. Uh, and I hear guys, that really appreciate that kind of thing. But also, there's showing them appreciation when they're home, and just say, we just really appreciate what you do, and we know it's a sacrifice for you, and so we thank you for that. And yeah, so if you can find a way to help them. So in my travel, I don't have an expense account. Really, I'm pretty going on a shoestring, and so I try my best to stay with somebody at a seminar. I mean, even if they volunteer to put me up in a hotel, I'd rather be in somebody's home, even if I'm on a couch, just connecting to people. And so, yeah, that's a great thing to offer to
Yeah,
travelers, because yeah, sometimes we need it.
yeah, awesome. Well, Kent, we're nearing the end of the episode. What are some other tips or advice that you have for Christian travelers?
Okay. Um, One thing, don't be afraid. You know, God may put it in your heart to go somewhere that's kind of strange. I went to India and spent a month there, did seminars there, and just stayed with the people that I was with for the most part, and uh, it was very different culture, very different things. But don't let fear, you know, keep you from such an experience, and yeah, press in with God during it. And if it's kind of hard, certain things about it, uh, he'll he'll give you what you need to still be able to travel. And yeah, it's there's good things, uh, and just enjoy being in a different culture. Just just see what they have, and that's quite different than you, or what seems to work for them that you hadn't thought of, and really just go in and go with a good attitude whenever you're traveling.
Without complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, One of the questions that I always like to ask our guests is what has been the biggest God moment in all of your travels?
Oh wow. So that's actually an easy one. When we were in Germany, um, we went to a place. The Army has a retreat center called Edelweiss, which is in Garmisch, Germany, and it is on the Austrian border. It is one of the most gorgeous places on the planet. And so we were there. My wife had training during the day, and I love the mountains. Just we always vacationed, even when we were in Texas, in the mountains of Colorado, and then moved there. But I just feel really close to God with all this grandeur around me. And so I took my guitar. I went and found a big rock to sit on. I was singing praises and loving uh, just being there, and the beauty I saw. And God impressed me that this is beautiful because I am beautiful. And this most gorgeous scene is only a dim reflection of my beauty. And that was the most powerful truth to me, uh, that He, indeed, it was His beauty that I desired so to see. I'd always been fascinated with beauty. Uh, I wanted to have rocks and minerals. I collected beautiful ones. I wanted to collect or work on wood that had high figure, beautiful wood. I wanted to enjoy seeing beautiful cars and beautiful architecture, and I'd had this theme of beauty, and God really brought what the need for that and why I needed it is because I desired His beauty, the ultimate beauty, and that was a very special time, and has been a lich now for me to fight lust, uh, where I just think as whatever woman I see doesn't matter. Sometimes on the internet you get surprised what you're seeing, but I can just quickly say, God, thank you for the reminder of your much greater beauty, and it just cuts off the lust completely. And yeah, so that's definitely my most powerful time in traveling.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We've really enjoyed having you on our show today. How can our listeners connect with you outside of today's episode?
Yes, so I have a website called remadepreacher.com. You can look that up, see a bit about my seminars, about my book. You can go to Amazon, look up Remade. Uh, a Preacher Finds Victory Over Porn and Complaint. Find the book there. Would love to have people read my story. And I have my email in there. You can connect with me. And I love doing that. Just hearing the response of being there. And especially, I would love to have uh, someone, leadership in the church, or maybe bring it up to your leadership that maybe we should look at having a seminar. I would love to have much more use of my time in that. Our time in Korea is getting close to over, and we'll be headed back to the States. So anyway, I still probably will be traveling.
That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure to have links in the description below. Thank you so much, Kent, for your time and for sharing with us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a delight to be with you.
Thank you. Well, Christian travelers, I hope that you have been encouraged today, not only to turn to the Lord with porn and lust, but also to turn to community and to connect with people intentionally. No matter how much time that you are in a community, it is still possible to be intentional with creating those connections. If you go looking for related topics, I encourage you to check out episode 16, Living with a Family Abroad with Susan Whitehead, and episode 175, Building Friendship While Traveling with Ann Taylor McNeese. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and until next time, safe travels and God bless.